Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are games with mountains of potential that they really didn't do anything with. Which is sad, because this game seems to be the only mainline entry to really change up the formula, more than any other in the series, and if we're being honest, that is also kinda sad. Sure, the catching mechanics were okay, different, and fresh enough for the main series, sure, but for the most part, they weren't really anything special. Sure, some will say how Sun and Moon, finally got rid of the need of HMs, and that was a big change to the formula, but I'd argue that HMs are always something that was more of an annoyance than anything else, and that always needed to be fixed. And ride Pokemon in the Sun and Moon games are pretty much the same thing anyway. At least the new catching mechanics were, something new. To the main series, that is. And Let's Go did change some things for the obvious worse. Like, you can argue that the catching mechanics were pretty good. Personally, I think they're alright. Like I said before, I think they're just alright. But Let's Go did change some things for the worse. For one thing, you can only really pet and feed your partner Pikachu or Eevee instead of all your party Pokemon. The reintroduction to following Pokemon is incredible, and you even get to ride them. But if you aren't using a fast rideable Pokemon like Arcanine, or any of the other fast Pokemon like that, you're not getting anywhere any quicker. And I wish the bike was an option for those whose Pokemon aren't rideable or just not very fast. But that's why we're here today, to look at this flawed, overpriced, yet kinda interesting game and see if we can buff out some of the problems and add in some much needed content that I think would fit in this game's world. And help it better be a bridge between the Pokemon Go crowd, the veterans of the series, and of course, the new players, while also being a wonderful reintroduction to the franchise to people who fell out of the series a long time ago. Because I remember seeing lots of people talk about how this was their first Pokemon game in a while, and how they were sharing it with their kids. So, let's get started. And we'll start with the Pokédex. So yeah, this was definitely one of the bigger problems with the game. When they first announced the game, I was so excited. Think about how me and my little brother can play through Kanto with multiplayer with some of our favorite Pokemon from Kanto and beyond behind us. And how it's going to be so cool to travel around with like my Torterra on a home console Kanto adventure, and that did not happen. The decision to only bring in the original 151 was an incredible mistake. Sure, we got Megas, Alolan Forms, Meltan, Melmetal, but those are not enough of an addition. Especially how Meltan is only available in Pokemon Go, and can only evolve into Melmetal in that game, through like 400 candies. And don't get me started on how Mew was only available through the Pokeball Plus. The idea of limiting the dex to this extreme was terrible, but the idea to limit the dex in this game isn't a bad one. I know that's a little weird to say, but let me explain. This game is a bridge for fans who haven't played a Pokemon game in a while, to get familiar and to how the game plays nowadays. So why not include a handful of Pokemon from the newer generations? Because let's be honest, everyone from Pokemon Go knows and has used Pokemon from later generations, and even used some of them in Pokemon Go itself. And those who haven't played a Pokemon game since Red and Blue know that there are more than 151. You're not fooling anybody, and you already added 2 new Pokemon in some forms from later games. My suggestion would be to bump up the Pokemon count from 153 to, let's say, 250 to 300 Pokemon. Not all the Pokemon, but just enough to be noticed and encountered through usual gameplay. You could say this is like when you were a kid and your mom hid vegetables in your food, but instead these Pokemon will be brought up to the forefront a bit, and will spark up that old Pokemon spirit. Let me give you an example. Let's say a dad who hasn't played Pokemon since Red and Blue is messing around, with his kid, and his kid's excited to see all these creatures he's never heard of, and his dad is showing him and telling him all about all the Pokemon. They see, Psyduck, Weedle, Rhyhorn, the usual stuff. And while they are on the route, the route to the real close to Fuchsia City, from Fuchsia City to Lavender, anyway. On that route, a Drapion springs from the bush and attacks. The kid is like, "Whoa, Dad, who's that Pokemon?" And Dad's like, "I don't know, son." At this moment, all they see is a huge scorpion with spikes, claws, and fangs. It's crazy. The kid and the dad are both having this Pokemon spirit, where they have to catch it and find out what this Drapion is. They don't know it's a Drapion. Well, I mean, they can read the name, but they gotta catch it. They gotta figure out what this is. Let's say this is one of those encounters in the game where you have to battle them. The Drapion is using poison moves, and the dad's like, "Ha, I know what to use, kid. I'll use a psychic attack." And it does nothing. Both are shocked. And after finally catching it, battling it, beating it, and catching it, they learn about how this Pokemon is poison and dark type. Which means they both learn about this Pokemon together, and they learn about dark type Pokemon. Something that didn't exist in the red and blue that the dad played a long time ago. Of course, later the dad is talking to one of his buddies, and he tells him about it, and he's like, and the buddy goes, "Yeah, man, I found a cool black and white bird thing that turned into a bigger bird with a red thing on its head, and learned this punching thing. Erica did not stand a chance, man." And there you go. Both the father and the kid and the father's buddy they're sparking up that old Pokemon spirit. The kid's becoming a fan. The dad's feeling like how he did as a kid when he found a new Pokemon. It's great. It's being rekindled, and it's being brought up for the first time. And now they know about some of the new stuff added since Generation 1. Of course, this wouldn't be the only time in the game something like this happens. A Jellicent can appear on the bridge by Celadon. Some trainers and gym leaders could use some of the new Pokemon. Well, new to them. And let's say after exiting from Seafoam Island for the first time, a Kommo-o appears and attacks the player. This could be so much fun. It gives a chance for veteran players to go through Kanto with new teams they couldn't have had before, while teaching others all the new mechanics and typings. And of course, some of the new Pokemon. And by the time they play one of the newer games, they'll know more than just Magikarp and Pikachu. They'll know all the Pokemon new to them in Let's Go. And by limiting the decks, they can't get overwhelmed by all the new Pokemon. They'll just be sprinkled in throughout the game, and they'll just be like, it'll be like how your mom used to put vegetables in your food and you just got used to it, The fact they didn't do anything like this is crazy to me. This was pretty much a given to them on an open platter. I came up with this idea not long after they announced the limited decks, so I know somebody in Game Freak had to have a very similar idea. That wasn't just Pokemon Alolan forms that are just hidden in the Pokemon centers, or just Mega Evolutions that are put in at the end of the game. And there's a lot of Pokemon that could work with this. Pokemon from Generation 2 that were only found in Kanto, evolutions and pre-evolutions from the newer gens, Pokemon added to Kanto through Heart Gold and Soul Silver, through the radio and swarms, and just some random ones like Kommo-o and Jellicent, and just come on, man, this would have been so cool. Alright, let's move on. Next would be more post-game. Yeah, the post-game was pretty underwhelming. Master trainers are a fun idea, and I think that should stay in along with the fights with Red, Blue, and Leaf. I mean Green. They were fun challenges, and I really like their inclusion. And my personal favorite, the rematches with gym leaders, Elite Four, and the rival. I get why most people don't really like this rival, but I think he's okay. I mean, he adopts the orphan Cubone, so he's already a pretty stand-up guy. I think he's pretty alright. I want to keep all of this in, but add on a new post-game adventure. So, the original Pokemon Yellow was made to be more in line with the anime, or the show, or whatever you want to call it. So, when they decided to remake or reimagine it, it's quite odd that they didn't add something that would be an incredible addition. An adventure that was anime only. I want the Orange Islands. I know. Sun and Moon, all the Sun and Moon games that came out before Let's Go already did a very similar thing to the Orange Islands, with regional forms, a new sort of gym challenge, and of course the use of islands, but I think that's even more reason to include it, because the team already has experience with this sort of adventure. And this could be where you catch the Alolan forms themselves, and this is a great idea, especially if you're not going to add in the Sevi Islands from the other Gen 1 remakes. This would have been such a cool surprise, or, they could have added Johto. That would have been fun, it would have been a nice little inverse. Why did I make this video? Why would I make a video talking about how I would fix an underwhelming game that I enjoy for some reason? Well, that's simple. One, if they ever do a Let's Go Johto, I want them to do it right. And they did add in Archer, so that's some sort of hint to its possibility. Two, I just wanted to talk about the issues I've had since this game's announcement, and after a while of listening to other people's, complaints and coming up with some ideas on my own. And three, this game has some things in it that I think can make a real improvement for the new Pokemon games in the future. For one, the art style of this game, which looks to be an updated version of the one from X and Y and ORAS. It's just so nice to look at, and it's much simpler and feels more like Pokemon than the one used in Sun and Moon and most recently in Sword and Shield. And I'm not the only one that feels like this. This new art style it isn't, how do I put this? Okay, look at Shield and look at Let's Go Pikachu. Which of these look more Pokemon to you? And I'm not saying this realistic style and Shield and stuff is bad. But with the way the Pokemon Company puts out a main series something every year, or tries to, I think a more simplistic art style could go a long way, especially with how easier it'd be to develop, and it wouldn't need as much detail as the more realistic style. And they could get away with it, by making up with bright colors, and not to mention the battle backgrounds, which are much more varied in Let's Go. Some would disagree with me, and yeah, I get it. It's a lot less graphically impressive, but I think this would be a great compromise. If they want to make new main series stuff every year instead of taking a break, which I desperately want them to do, that's fine. That's fine. I want them to take more time, but if they just use an art style similar to Let's Go with some touches here and there, and I think we would definitely have something nice, at least to look at. But graphics are not everything. Like I said before, the catching mechanics were probably the most interesting change to the main series formula in a while. I think if they are willing to make more changes like this, but obviously a lot more interesting and just better, like a new battle style that's more action based, with maybe the ability to combine attacks, other than the pledges, and dodge, kind of like in the show, I think that would be a lot of fun, to try something new. And that's exactly what I want Game Freak to do. Pokemon is pretty much going to sell no matter what. I know that sounds odd, but it's pretty much true. Lots of people like the series, and even when the core fans are split on something, the games sell well anyway. And I think with that knowledge, Game Freak and the Pokemon Company should just be more experimental. Next year is the 25th anniversary. I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. But if I'm right, well, even if I'm not right, 25 years, it's a long time. I think it's time to get a little bit crazy. So, back to Let's Go itself. Personally, this game is a guilty pleasure for me. And I wanted to talk about its strengths and how it could be so much better. It's not a great game. It's good, but not $60 good. You should wait for a sale if you ever want to jump in. I would recommend the Pokeball Plus, but it's also kind of expensive, and you can only really use it for this game, which is kind of weird. I don't know why they didn't just put that in as a controller for Sword and Shield, especially with the simplified controls in that game, but whatever. You should really just, if you want to skip the Pokeball Plus, it's up to you. I don't care. But if you want to get into Let's Go, wait for a sale. Don't buy it for $60. And don't ask me if I like Let's Go or Fire Red and Leaf Green better, because they both sides have their issues, and that makes it a bit of a tough choice between the two. Seriously, Steelix, Crobat, and the other evolutions in Pokemon that should be in Kanto are in the game, but you can't get them till post game. But it has an actual post game in the Seven Islands, but they weren't even that anything special. Man, isn't it fun to talk about your favorite series? Maybe one day we'll get a Pokemon game where the models have as much detail as Pokken. Speaking of Pokken, why are there still slots missing in the fighter and supporter rosters? If they're struggling to come up with ideas, I can give off a few. I think Machoke, Lycanroc, Midnight Form would be fun for fighters. Maybe Toxicroak, but they already got Croagunk in there. They put him in there twice. They put him in there as a support and a fighter. I don't know what's up with that. But I do know that Actually, I just came up with this. Audino would probably be pretty fun as a support, and also maybe who else would be fun as a support? I'm doing this non-scripted right here, so give me a minute. I'm just gonna think of somebody random. Badoo, Audino and Badoo for a support set, but there's also another support set that's missing. So how about I already got Dragonite, so maybe not a Dragonair one. How about they do Zigzagoon and Obstagoon. No. Yeah, you know what? Fine. Yeah, Zigzagoon, Obstagoon for a new support set. That'd be fun. B-Barrel would be fun as a fighter, too. Hey, when are we getting Pokken 2?